It's podcast time, everybody, and welcome back to Rambling About Cars. And you'll notice Chris Smith is not with me again this week. Instead, there's this guy named Rusty Bruce with me. And if you think, wait, isn't your name Chris Bruce? Rusty Bruce? Is there a connection there? Yes. Rusty Bruce is my dad, and I decided to do something kind of special this week. No Smiths around. I've kind of been wanting to do this for a while. We kicked it around one time before, and now is the right time to do it. So got my dad with me tonight. We're going to be talking about cars. We're going to do a little car news, and we're going to talk kind of our personal cars and our personal car stories. So I hope you folks like that. So without further ado, Dad, tell the listeners something about yourself.
Hi, I'm 67 years old. I'm Chris's father, and I'm probably a pretty poor replacement for Chris Smith. That's a tough act to follow. So I'll do my best.
Okay. You'll do great. I have faith in you. But let's kick it off with some car news real quick before we get into our personal stories. And that's because SEMA was this week. And SEMA is all about the automotive aftermarket generally, except for that Dodge was there and they brought in a bright candy apple red, gorgeous version of the Dodge Charger Daytona SRT. And for anyone unfamiliar with it, that is their upcoming electric vehicle. And this is the first time we're actually getting to see it in a bright color like this. Before, they showed it in kind of a dark gray. And before that, we kind of saw it in black. So this red really makes the lines pop, really kind of lets us see what it looks like. And it's not just that we're seeing what it looks like. They're telling us how much power it has, at least how much power the basic versions have. So entry-level model, that's going to have 455 horsepower. You're also going to be able to get it in 495 horsepower. Oh, and you'll be able to get it in 535 horsepower and 590 horsepower and 630 horsepower and 670 horsepower. And those are just the ones they are telling us about now. There will also be 3 even more powerful versions for what they're calling the Banshee models. So just a ton of power available. Dad, I'm going to throw on some images here. So my dad is an EV owner. He can tell you guys a little bit about what EV he owns, and he was going to react a little bit to these power outputs while I throw some images up on the screen.
Okay, yes. I have a 2018 BMW i3. Just got it a couple months ago. So it has like 170 horsepower. And I had a question for Tom Alogny, Chris. How can 170 horsepower be so much fun? I mean, that thing is a hoot to drive. It's way quicker than you would think.
Yeah.
So when I see these power outputs, that's great. That's just going to be a ton of fun to drive in electric.
Mm-hmm.
And,
so real quick for anyone out there, Tom Malogny has been a guest on the show before. He's from Inside EVs. He is the kind of the guru of EV charging, I would call it. He has been testing EV chargers and EVs in general for longer than some of us have been in this business. And also, as I'm thinking about it, he also helped launch the BMW i3 in the US. So I'm actually going to have to get his opinion, and maybe I'll throw it into the show post for this and find out his opinions on the i3. But while we're talking about Charger EV, sorry about that, they are separating those power levels into 2 levels, 340 and 440. And for any old school Dodge fans, old school Chrysler fans, those are references to old V8s. So that's how they're separating those powers. And it's interesting, Dad, and I'm curious what your opinion on this is. You will be able, through over-the-air, download software to get more powerful engines or more powerful outputs. So say you walk in and you buy the base one, you will be able to upgrade it at least 1 level, and who knows how far.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So thoughts?
All you guys out there with the gas Hemis and all that, don't be afraid. You guys are in for a treat. Yeah, I just can't imagine with those numbers the seat of the push you back in the seat feeling you're going to get. Yeah, don't fear the future. It's all good.
What do you think? Well, no, before we get into how it looks, that I agree that those are just going to be. It's interesting that we're kind of jaded today. That like 455 horsepower almost seems, from a performance car, almost seems ho hum. That you're like, oh, is that really that much? And the answer is yeah, it's that much. And the fact that it goes from 455 horse to 670 horse, and those are the base models. We're not talking about, they're already telling us 3 more powerful ones are going to come. So, yeah, it definitely seems like Dodge they're hitting the ground running when it comes to EVs. We don't have a proper Mustang EV. Yes, we have the Mustang Mach-E, but you know what I mean. A pony car electric Mustang. We don't have an electric Camaro or anything like that. And so Dodge is they get to be the first classic American muscle car. Yeah, you could maybe Tesla fans might disagree with me there, but you know what I'm saying, that this has the possibility to appeal to someone who's an old school fan. Someone, I think of my Uncle Ted as an example, where you and I talk to him a lot, and we've kind of started talking him into EVs. But I feel like it's something like this might be just that little nudge to make him step off the cliff and really get into them.
Yeah, he drove mine when he was here about 2 weeks ago, and he was impressed, for an old muscle car guy. And yeah, I think his gears are spinning, and something like this is right up his alley.
So I'm curious now. So we talked about power. Let's get into looks. Smith and I talked about this a little bit, but we were looking at the gray one, and I gotta tell you, the red color just... it lets you see much more of the lines and the creases and the sculpting. What do you think of the way this looks? What's your opinion? It's a little bit retro, but not overly so. Give me your opinions.
And it's like, looking at it from the side, it's really not that, big a departure from what they have now. I think
the front end's completely different. But you're right. The profile.
Yeah, it's a nice looking car, and yeah, it's going to be a hoot to drive, and hopefully people are ready for it.
I think people are kind of ready for it. I think they kind of have to be almost.
Yeah, that's true too.
That at this point, for better or worse, and we're going to be talking about a lot of combustion cars on this show, but we kind of have to admit at this point, EVs are the future.
Sure.
But I think vehicles like this show that that's not necessarily a bad thing. That, an EV can be exciting and look cool and be fun and fast and all of that. It's going to take changing some minds.
Yeah. Plus, even if like your 440 or whatever 500 horse gas engine, I'm telling you, 500 horse and electric, it feels different.
Right. I've driven your i3, and you're right, 170 horsepower. And so what do they call? It's not called sport mode. It's called normal mode. What's they call?
Comfort. It's misnamed.
It's the sport mode. The one where you get the most powerful is called comfort mode, which is still funny to me.
That's because you can comfortably pass 9 out of 10 cars with it on.
Yeah, but I drove it, and you're right. It feels faster than my Subaru that technically has another 100 horsepower. The Subaru's rated at 270, and that's rated at 170. And I swear, in a straight line, that i3, at least up to 60, would just trounce that Outback.
Yeah, from stoplights, it's a hoot. Yeah, no regrets. It's all good.
Yep. But yeah, so I think that does us with the Charger SRT. I do like that color. Like, I wouldn't own a red car. It's not for me. You did. You guys owned a red Mustang, but I am so happy they put a different color on this one for SEMA, because I'll throw, while we're talking about it, I'll throw up a picture here of the other one, but you can just see it so much better. Like, you look at the hood and you can see it's got that little bit of a power bulge and the sculpting, and it just wasn't nearly as obvious before. Here, talk 1 second for me and I will throw up some other images.
Sure, yeah. I haven't seen these, so I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, well, these are the older. Okay, so yeah, here it is. Am I sharing this? Yeah, I'm sharing this. So yeah, here it is in kind of a gunmetal-ish gray, and it's kind of a really good. I, by happenstance, picked a good angle, but you can see it just hides all of that cool stuff at the front.
Oh yeah, it does. Yeah.
And so I'm really happy at SEMA they finally gave us a proper color and a proper look. But yeah. So I take it. So all in all, you're pro. Not necessarily you're gonna. One will be in the garage anytime soon, but
right. Yeah, I mean, that's it. It's a good next step. Yeah, I think. Yeah, not sure about this old noise thing.
Yeah.
That one I heard, it sounded like an 80s video game, but yeah, I'm not sure about that whole deal, but so yeah.
Well, to be fair, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt for now. Dodge said they weren't done with the sound. And this came from Tim Kaniskis, the brand CEO. But yeah, I agree with you. The first videos of the sound that we heard was bad. Like, you're right. It sounded like an 80s video. It just sounds too fake. It sounds too artificial. Yeah, which is a bummer, because I think generally, you and I are fairly pro on this car. Maybe it's not necessarily our personal style in terms of ownership, but it's got plenty of power. It looks pretty good. But I hope it doesn't sound like that, or at least you could hopefully turn it off.
Yeah.
That's the nice thing with it being fake sound is hopefully you can plug up a speaker somewhere and make it sound different. But yeah, I agree with you. Hopefully it sounds better.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I think it'll be a good step for him.
Okay. Well, let's get into the personal car story stuff, because that's kind of the reason I had you on. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about. I kind of wanted to do a little bit of oral history, a little bit of just talking cars, a little bit of just kind of, letting people, they say the internet never forgets, and that can be a bad thing a lot of times, but it can be a good thing too, where, this episode where we're talking cars is always going to be out there somewhere. So I kind of thought that was cool. So, but we wanted to start at the beginning. I was actually curious, because I don't know the answer to this question. What's the first car you remember your family owning? We're going to get to your very first car in a minute, because that's very cool. But just for my own personal education, what's the first car you remember your family owning?
56 Chevy two-door.
Okay.
Two-tone. I was too little. I don't remember if it was the straight six or the V8, but yeah, 56 Chevy two-door. Who knew?
Do you remember how long you had that, or how long that was in the?
I bet she had it. She probably had it 7 or 8 years.
Okay, which for that age, that was a pretty decent amount of time.
And she replaced it with a 64 Ford Galaxy.
Oh,
yeah,
that was a big car.
Sorry,
as we were talking, I was trying to find a good picture of a 210 or something like that just to pop up here, but I will easily be able to find a picture of a Galaxy. I know that.
It was a white 64 two-door 289 two-barrel.
Huh.
By then,
do you have any?
Be into cars, so that those kind of things are.
Do you have any memories in either one of them? Any good memories, at least?
Well, I have a memory. It was kind of scary.
Okay.
I had a younger brother. He was about 3 or 4, and we're sitting in the kitchen table, and we lived on the driveway was on a slope, and I see him standing on the front seat going down the driveway past the kitchen window. And it's like, this can't be good.
This is bad.
So we all run out, and fortunately, he hit the house.
Okay,
bro, that's better than the alternative. If he'd have went on out across the street, he would have crashed into houses. Could be people. Yeah, that was pretty scary because back then, that early, you didn't need keys or anything. I mean, you just got in the car, pulled it down, and that's how he was able to do that. He was standing on a seat, one hand on the steering wheel, put it down into neutral, and away he went. So that was that's my memory from the didn't have the skirts, but that's the same. That's it. The red interior, that's it. So that was kind of a scary moment with that car.
Was he okay?
Yeah, he was fine. Like I said, fortunately, he didn't get to go. He probably went 50 feet, from the garage to the house. And so that was pretty scary. And that was my main memory, from that car.
Did Grandma keep the car much longer after that, or was that kind of the end of that?
No, she got rid of it because they had a camper trailer, and the 289 wasn't very good, like in the mountains, and it overheated. So they got rid of that and got an Oldsmobile something, 88, I think. I think it was also 64, 65, something like that. And just because it had a bigger motor and it was better for towing.
Okay.
So those were the early days.
Well, let's get into your first car because you had quite an interesting one. So tell the folks what you had, and I'm going to throw some pictures, not of your car, but granted, these are from our friends at Wheels Age who have a great database of pictures. But let's get into that. Okay.
Well, my first car was a 69 Roadrunner, and I was able to convince my mom that it's just, a family sedan. I mean, it looks a lot like, Grandma's Bel Air and, or Belvedere, I should say, Belvedere. It looked a lot like that. And no 17-year-old should have, it had headers and an aftermarket carb, and the exhaust was modified. It was, except mine was like the blue that's in the background, going around the screen there. So, but that was my first car.
Let me see if I can't find a pic. So, okay. So many questions. Do I want to get to the funny story about it first? Because I knew you went, no, let's not do that. Before that, what was it about the Roadrunner that was like, that's the one?
It belonged to a friend of mine. So, I was around it quite a bit. And, I'm 17 years old and car crazy.
Right.
And, for a fast car, it was affordable. And I think I paid less than $1,200 for it.
Whoa.
Yeah. And
which, granted, $1,200 then is more than $1,200 today, but still.
Yeah, but still, I mean, a 17-year-old kid I could afford it, and
exactly.
Nearly killed myself once a week in it.
Why don't you? Okay, I don't know any of these stories. Tell me one of those stories. Pick one.
Oh, just it had drum brakes
all around.
So to stop it, you had to stop it, like if you're in a hurry, like you should have let off 50 feet ago. You put both hands on the steering wheel, both feet on the brake pedal, and then you push. And yeah. Sometimes you don't think you're going to stop, and or other times, you jump on it and you're like looking out the passenger window to see which way you're. Yeah. So yeah, but I survived.
Right.
Yeah.
So do you remember how long you had it? Because I'm curious.
I think I only had it about a year.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we should say you grew up in northeastern Ohio, which is a snowy area. And I imagine this thing would be about as bad in the snow as you could imagine, especially on 60s, 70s era bias ply tires. I assume things weren't good, or am I over?
No. It had, so when I got it, it had like two sets of wheels. I had my Mickey Thompsons for the summer,
Yeah.
the wide ones,
Yep.
on these like Krager whatevers. And those were your fair weather wheels. And in the winter, it had, just the regular tires. But in the back, I had studded snow tires.
Oh, okay.
And when it was dry and you trumped it, the thing looked like an arc welder. Going up the road, you could look in the mirror and see the sparks. So yeah, yeah. So I was also into motorcycles at the time, and I had it about a year, and I thought I'm going to get something cheaper and have a little seed money for some motorcycles. So that's why it went. But yeah, and it was loud. It had like these $10 brush mufflers coming off of headers, and then the exhaust came out in front of the back tires.
Okay. Did you do any of the modifications, or did you buy it already?
I bought it like it was all done. Okay. I just bought it. And another friend of mine drove it, so it kind of went around the group.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, everybody had a turn in it. My buddy got in trouble with it.
What's trouble mean?
We're leaving this party. Had a few cocktails. He jumped on it, and another guy we know had his G67 GTO, and he ran and took out the side of the guy's GTO and his and the front of his Roadrunner there. So yeah, it was. I'm fortunate I didn't
Right, it wasn't you
have any incidents like that, but
exactly.
Yeah, it could be a handful. It just had to. I'm not even sure it had power brakes. It had standard steering, and it got a little hard to turn with those big fat tires on it. But and I don't even think like if you tried, I don't think you could lock up the wheels with those wide tires on it. So yeah. So anyhow, that was my Roadrunner.
Not anyhow. We got to do the one story, the famous story about the. Let me put it this way: I hadn't heard these other stories. The story that got passed down to me is the one where my grandmother drove this car. Yeah, and I got to hand it over to you since it's your story. But this is the one I know and love.
Okay, she drove it a couple of times, and at the time she had 69 Impala 327 2-barrel. Your basic family car. And because the Roadrunner had an aftermarket carb, it also had an aftermarket throttle spring. And I swear it came off a screen door. It was really, really stiff, but I got used to it. But, she's my mom. She's not as strong. And she mistakes that, well, this thing's not, because she pushes and pushes and it doesn't go very fast. So I picked her up from work one day, and she says, I think my car's faster than yours. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so, Mom. And she goes, yeah, this thing's kind of a dog. I'm like, okay. So I pulled out, went down the street. I had to cross these railroad tracks, so I went slow. As soon as I got on the other side of the tracks, nobody was coming. So I nailed it. from about 15 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So like the RPMs come up to max. The tires are spinning. It's kind of slewing a little bit to the left and a little bit to the right. And right as about as I think I made my point and I was going to let off, wow, she slaps me. And I don't remember what you scared me or something to that effect. And that's the only time my mom ever slapped me was over that car. So yeah. And my mom's 90, and if she still remembers, she'll tell you about it. So yeah, that was my best Roadrunner story.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the one that got passed down. So yeah, that's the one I know and love. But I because I've heard her tell the story too, and her saying how tough it was to push down the throttle and how she thought it was slow. And you go over these railroad tracks, and I swear the way she tells it is that you were barely over the railroad tracks and gunned it. And
that's true.
Okay.
Yeah.
She ain't lying. Okay.
Yeah. So I still remember that.
Cool. Yeah. Well, what other car adventures do we want to talk about? We prepped some before the show. Is talking about this bringing any up, or do you want to move on to something else? What are you thinking?
I think we'll go to story time.
Okie doke. Do we want to start? Let's start small and go bigger. So let's tell the Mid-Ohio story about you and your Porsche 944. And I actually have a picture of this day on my computer that I'm going to try to find. So tell a little bit of the story while I do some photo hunting, and we'll go. I will pitch in as I can, but I want to show this picture that I've got on my computer. So
okay,
set the stage.
So about 2004.
That'd be about right.
We purchased a 944 locally. It was an 88, I believe.
That sounds right.
Silver. And so we were going to go. We're going to go to Mid-Ohio for the vintage sports car days. And
let's wait. You got to remember, our folks might not know everything about that. So real quick, Mid-Ohio is a fantastic race course, as the title says, in middle of Ohio. It's probably hour and a half-ish, maybe an hour north of Columbus. Basically, Mansfield, Ohio. It's in Lexington, but Mansfield's kind of the biggest local town. Honda is kind of the main sponsor of the track these days. But they still do all sorts of, whether it's sports car racing, or they have one of the lower NASCAR series. Is it Nextel? Is that what they still call it? I'm sorry, NASCAR fans. I get those confused, but still a fantastic race course, still there. Proceed with your story.
So I don't think Chris had ever driven around the track.
Had I already been around there in the E30 or not? I don't think I had.
I don't think so. So
I don't think so either.
So I thought you needed to do some laps.
Yeah.
And so I let you drive. And back in the early days when they first started having it, it was just a whisker short of a track day. It was supposed to be like all these, sports cars going around. And but
right. So sorry again to interrupt. Sorry, I got to set the stage here a little bit. So they're vintage sports car days. It's vintage sports car. It's vintage sports car racing, but then also anyone with kind of a cool older car brings it there. And there's a car corral, and you get a glass to take home with you. I thought I was actually drinking out of one, but I'm not. But yeah, it's just a fun day of car stuff. And what they do is during the lunch break, they let everyone in the car corral go on a parade. And like he was saying, back then in kind of 04, 05, that area, they didn't really it was not a parade. It was more anywhere there was a decent straight, everyone would slow down and you would let the guy ahead of you go. And then it would just be a free for all down the straight or down a few corners or whatever. And then you would slow down again and people would bunch up and it would be that.
So we get out on the track and I noticed that there's a 911 turbo pulls out behind us. And I thought, this could be a problem. So I think you get 3 or 4 laps. So as we're going around, our gap opens up and I'm telling, come on, Chris, let's go. Lay the wood to this thing. And he does. And he's just not going fast enough. So I'm like, come on, dude, we got to go. Let's 85 miles an hour. And I'm come on, dude, let's go. This guy's going to run us over. Let's pick up the pace. So yeah.
Not only do I have a picture of that day that for anyone watching, I just put on the screen, you can see set 911 behind me.
Oh yeah.
He's right there.
I never noticed that. Okay.
Yeah. So I look, it's an interesting fashion choice. I've got another photo I'll throw up here, but yeah. So it wasn't quite silver. It was like a goldish bronze year 944. It was an interesting color. It was a sweet car. That was a cool car.
That's the one that I regret. Of my 3 sports cars, that's the one that I'd rather have back.
I don't blame you. Here, let me. While we're paused here a second. So I only have these 2 pictures, but yeah. So there is also me. And then you can see the other line of Porsches waiting to get on the track because this is as lunchtime was going on and we were waiting to go on. So you can see a 996, 911, a 914. It looks like a slant nose. This guy in this PT Cruiser who must have gotten lost because you can see it's nothing but Porsches and then PT Cruiser guy. But yeah.
So you can't see me. So
you were taking the photo.
Yeah. So I remember though, there was a marshal like right where, at the front of our car and he's kind of, bringing the guys in and he says to that guy in the PT Cruiser, where the hell do you think you're going? I'm not letting you out there with those Porsche. So it was
also Porsche was the featured mark, we should say. So, they were letting all the Porsches on first but yeah, this guy in this PT Cruiser, like,
with his whole family in the car, wanted to go out, and they're like, "No, that ain't happening, dude."
Yeah. But anyway, I can totally say that your story is true. That we went out on the track, and I was being like, I wasn't going slow, but I wasn't like pushing it either. And then you start saying, "Go!" This guy, this 911 turbo's right behind us. We got to go, and I know down the straight, I looked down and we were doing 85.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh,
could we maybe have kissed 90? Maybe, but 85 every day of the week going down the back straight because you're telling me this 911's is breathing down our neck and you didn't want to piss the guy off because, it's not a race. It's just, they're supposed to be parade laps, but like parade laps in a fun way where there's a bit of space. You're not driving 10/10ths, but you also, there's no speed limit on the racetrack. You can do what you want to do. So yeah.
While we're talking about this, I'll also mention, just a few years ago, we did the same thing. I had a 99 Jaguar XK8 convertible. And my wife had never been on the track. So again, I'm going to be the nice guy and let her drive. She didn't have that problem, dude. She was.
Are you telling me my mom's faster than me?
Yeah, she wasn't afraid of the thing. And,
it just so happens. Here, talk a second, because she put photos of that on Facebook. So I will actually pull up photos of that.
Oh, okay.
If we could talk just a second. So tell me more about her being there, because I was not there that day.
Yeah. So she took right to it. I didn't have to tell her to, she was a natural. And we did notice the perspective from the track is like way different. The track looks wider than it does, as a spectator.
That's definitely true.
in the back, there's one part, like where you come out of those S's and you go up a hill.
Yep.
And for a few seconds, you don't know which way the road goes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she didn't like that. So, but otherwise, it was a hoot. And, I'm kind of holding onto the dash and the turns and that. And the tires didn't squeal, but she didn't have any.
She had a good day.
Pace.
Here, I'm still pulling them up. I found the one. Here she is behind the wheel. Here, keep talking 1 second. I've got 4 or 5 photos to pull up here to show the folks that my mom's a faster driver than me. Or my mom's a more aggressive driver than me. Let's put it that way.
Well, she probably had twice the horsepower you had too, but
right. But also, is that going to load? Yeah, that's going to load. Okay, so here she is in the corral waiting to get on. You can see her there.
That's it.
She's got what, a C5 Corvette, a Volvo, some sort of station wagon, a Miata, Mustang GT next to her. So an interesting little collection of cars. But I do have some of her on track here. So let me hold on 1 second. And if you've got any memories attached to these, feel free to share while I pull them up. Here she is behind the wheel. You can see waiting to get on.
Yeah.
Got a Datsun behind her. Same Mustang. Looks like a 993, 911 back there. And then.
Yeah, that was good. That was a good day.
That would have been what? 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, that sounds right. Yeah, that sounds right. Because I got it in 15 and I sold it in 20.
Yeah. So probably, yeah. But there she is on track with a Z, following a Z4. And then this last one here is, at least in terms of getting the feeling, is probably the best of the bunch. Let me share screen here one last time.
Sure.
And then, yeah, there she is behind the wheel.
Yeah. So that was her first time around. You know,
and she posted these in 2018. So that tells you what year it was. So.
Okay. Yeah. So I went down, specifically so she could have just a little bit of track time.
Mm-hmm.
And they were still doing the same thing as far as before you went out, they tell you don't gap, don't do that. Everybody's keeping, and no one does.
Right.
And they go, if you're acting up, we're going to pull you in. No, they didn't. It was pretty much you do what you want. If you got this, if you got the space, go for it.
Right. Right. And that's the thing, is that at least, so I've done it 3 times. We also did it in my BMW 3 Series, which I don't think I have photos of. So I've done it those 2 times, and then you've done it the 3rd time. People at that event are generally pretty cool. And I don't know if it's because it's, it's a vintage sports car event. So they're more mature people, I would say. Like, yeah, you've got a few dummies who might try to slide around or stuff like that or make a scene. But for the most part, in the times I've been there and the times you've talked about, it's just been, people just having a good time.
Have a little fun.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, that good story there. Here, I'm closing some tabs a second.
Can I say one more thing about Mid-Ohio before we go away?
Absolutely. You'd say whatever you want. We got time.
This spring, when the sports cars come, it's going to be amazing.
Totally.
The top level, top tier sports car racing, it's 2023 is going to be a golden age.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for anyone out there who doesn't know, that's because there's a new class. What is it? LMDH. Yeah. And so you're going to have BMW, you're going to have Porsche, you're going to have Acura, you're going to have Cadillac. Lamborghini will be there next year. I think there's at least one.
Going to be at Daytona, I saw.
Ferrari at least will be at Daytona. I don't know if they'll be at the Mid-Ohio race, but but still, it's going to be a new kind of golden age of factory-backed racing.
Yes.
Did I mention BMW when I went down the list? I can't remember. But yeah, Acura, BMW, Porsche, Cadillac, just really interesting cars. So the rules are they all have to be hybrids, hence LMDH is the hybrid. But like the Acura is a V6, a bunch of them are V8s, but they're like different displacement V8s. The Cadillac's a naturally aspirated V8. Just a lot of interesting stuff all on the track together. And no one quite knows how they're going to perform because it's the first year for it. And that's what makes it really fun is that, you know, it's just the surprise. It's not like, so you and I used to go to Mid-Ohio for the sports cars and watch like the Audis and stuff like that race. And it was a foregone conclusion in that class. The Audi was going to win. Like sometimes the Porsche LMP2 would beat it.
Occasionally, yeah, it would on tighter tracks. It could, like Mid-Ohio, it was nipping. It was a class lower, but it was nipping at the heels.
Totally.
Of the Audi diesel.
But there was never that much competition in the top class from factory back teams as we're seeing. So yeah, I too am really looking forward to that. Yeah, that's going to be fun this summer. You and I. Yeah, that's going to be fun.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah, we've talked about bringing family along, you know, obviously mom, but then like Ted that I mentioned and stuff like that, just because it's, you know, it's going to be this whole new thing. It's going to be just exciting. And then plus like the GT3 class or whatever they call the sports car class. I think it's still GT3, GT Daytona, whatever. Those cars also, there's interesting blood in there. It's just, it's a good time. We're entering a really interesting time for sports cars. So I look forward to it too.
Yep.
But let's do our next automotive adventure that we were going to talk about. And this is one I got paid for. Let's stay in the United States and let's do the trip that you and I took in a Buick Regal Tour X. And it was full disclosure. It was set up by Buick, Motor1.com, who, as you know, is the host of this site, sent me on this trip, and they wanted to recreate the Oregon Trail. So we flew into Denver. We picked up a Regal Tour X, and along the way, we drove our way to Portland City, which is the town that is directly south of, or I'm sorry, Oregon City, which is the town that is directly south of Portland.
Yeah, good time.
Yeah, so I'm going to throw some photos up of that. But while I'm doing that, why don't you share some thoughts?
Yeah, I'd never really been out west before. I mean,
same.
Flown to Los Angeles and, you know, Laguna Seca and done that thing, but not the rest of it. So I was, you know, looking forward to that. And so, yeah, this was.
Wait. You didn't originally want to go. I had to talk you into it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So full disclosure, this was slightly before you retired. So you were working and you had to take time off. And I convinced you. I think I was right.
You were right. But you got to admit, it only took like 10 or 15 minutes to sell me. So
true. Okay, that's true.
I thought about it a minute and I go, this is stupid. I'm going, you know.
Yeah.
So, and you know, boy, am I glad I did.
So sadly, Motor1.com's images are not loading for me, but I have a bunch of personal images. So if you folks give me a second, I will throw those up instead. But yeah, talk a little bit more about that trip while I'm doing this.
So the first day we had to drive from Denver to Cheyenne, Wyoming. And, so yeah, that was interesting for me, you know, seeing mountains on the left and the right. And yeah, that was interesting being out west. And then we get there and we find out we have to do we had to do these challenges. And the first one, we had to lasso. It was a plastic cow's head on a bale of hay. It is way harder than it looked. Way harder.
So real quick for folks watching, this is just going to be my own raw images. So there's some here that are going to be doubles, some here might not be that great, but I want to get the point across and show you what we were doing. But the very first image you will see here was our very first stop, and that was at a Buffalo farm. Isn't the right word, because wasn't it like 900 acres?
No. You got it all. It was 27,000 acres.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it was
farm is like the wrong term.
You don't. I heard you make those guys mad. It's a ranch, and if you'd said farm, they will correct you.
And for valid reason.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm having some technical difficulties here as I pull stuff up. I've got everything that I need. Just trying to make it work for me.
Sure. But I remember they had like professional cowboys there, trying to teach.
Like us. It was a real working ranch. Like it wasn't it wasn't a dude ranch. It was.
No, it was real. I forget how many head they. I don't know. So it was 3,500, 4,000 head of bison, I believe.
Yeah, it was bison. But one of the things I thought was interesting that they said was you can't use horses to round them up. That doesn't work.
Yeah, because
they're too fast.
Yeah, the buffalo can outrun a horse.
Right.
So I said, what do you use? And they said 4-wheeler or a pickup truck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a fun trip. So drove through Wyoming. One of the interesting things I found about Wyoming is that, do you remember on the interstate where there's those, basically, if it snows too much, they close the interstate and you can't use it. Like, that's
they
that.
had like gates that would come down on the ramps.
Exactly.
You couldn't get on. Yeah.
But I've heard since then from like other people talking about it that when that happens, you just have to stay in that town until the blizzard gets better. Like it's not it might be a few hours. It could be days that you're just chilling in whatever town it is. And that's the way it works. Like that, you live there now, or at least for that time. Let's see, where is.
So yeah, there's the lassoing.
Right.
Yeah, that's hard.
Now we're talking.
Okay.
So now it'll run through a slideshow while we're talking about stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, this is the lassoing that you mentioned, where it's a bale of hay with a fake cow head on it, and it is hard because essentially this sounds obvious, but it goes where you throw it. But as you're spinning it around, there's also centrifugal force that is trying to pull it in a different way. So essentially you have to throw it early is the experience that I had. And then not only that, but you also have to throw it far enough to get it there. So it's even on, it sounds stupid, but you're throwing a lasso at a bale of hay, but it's really hard.
Yeah. And what were some of the other things we had to do? I think we had to splint a leg or something.
We did, yeah. Let me see if I can't slide through this a little quicker. But yeah, we went to Snake River Canyon, which for anyone out there who that sounds familiar, where we were on Snake River Canyon and where we ended up crossing a bridge to get back to the interstate, between those 2 points is where Evel Knievel apparently tried to jump the Snake River Canyon.
Yep.
So we didn't technically see it, but we were within a mile in each direction at any time.
Yeah, we were close.
Which that was cool. So yeah, we had split a leg there. Honestly, the driving part was the most kind of exciting because the itinerary was structured, but it was not so structured that we couldn't stop other places and do things like, I don't know if you remember stopping in, where we stopped in, I think it's Thermopolis.
Yes.
I can't remember where the hot springs are. So at work from Ride Apart, Jason Marker, when he did his big trip from Oregon to Detroit, he stopped there and actually went to the hot springs and stuff, which you and I just stopped there and, walked around and looked around and stuff. But, it's an actual hot springs. It's this tiny town. Like, it's literally essentially a road. And I think there's 2 little resorts. They're like little hotels with hot springs, but it's real hot springs. And I don't know if you could remember this, but they were like they were kind of like dug out some, and you could stand there and look down and, see people getting into the hot springs and stuff like that. It was a neat little thing. We did that. What else? Oh, we went to Fort Bridger in Wyoming.
That's right.
Which I have learned since then. There's this fantastic book called The Fantastic Stars Above about the Donner Party, that Fort Bridger is where everything went wrong for the Donner Party. In essence, there was a trail that went to the northwest, or you could just go dead west. They went dead west, and that takes you into the desert, and bad things happen there. So Fort Bridger was an interesting place. Go ahead.
Didn't they leave from Fort Bridger? Isn't that where
So that's where they what was one of the meeting places.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was cool. So we went to, and I don't know the name of the lake that we stopped at. I can't remember. Do you remember in Utah where we crossed?
Bear
what is
Lake.
it? Yeah. Bear Lake. That was gorgeous.
That was probably the best night, where we did that glamping, and we stayed in that tent that had hardwood floors and dressers and that shower and it was amazing. And
what was cool about it is that you come down and I guess, I don't know that it's technically the high desert, but you're in this kind of desert-like atmosphere, and you start going down these mountain roads, and that's where we saw like those giant semi-truck runoffs. And like, if you've lost your brakes here, you're screwed, basically. If this is what you're trying to save you. And so you go down these mountain roads, and you get to the bottom. And as I recall, and maybe I'm being overly romantic here, you go through a tunnel, and you go through this tunnel, and immediately everything is green again. And there's this gorgeous lake. That's the way I remember it.
Yeah, it was Bear Lake. And I remember we slept in that tent, and it was 27 degrees that night. And we had those the potbelly stoves, but I think they burned gas, didn't they? I can't remember.
So
we had stoves and electric blankets, and it was all the comforts of home.
So I don't have a picture. Oh, I do. Never mind. Here, I just found it. Let me open with preview. Here, let me show you here, and this will show you where we stayed. Window.
I don't know if you remember, but that's the place where we had to make the biscuits.
Yep.
The biscuits around that fire.
But yeah, this is what we stayed in. Here, I've zoomed in on it here. And they had a wood floor. So it looks tent-ish, but it did have like a wood floor and stuff. And I don't know if you remember this, but the tub / shower was just like a big galvanized, like almost like what you would like horses would drink out of, essentially. And sadly, they're not in this image, but I remember the day after we woke up, everyone was looking up at this mountain, and it looked, at first you couldn't see anything, but there were mountain goats up there, and they blended like until they moved, you didn't see them. Until one took a couple steps, it looked just like there could literally be a mountain goat in this photo, and I wouldn't be able to tell you.
So I remember as we're sleeping in the tent, and at like 4 a.m., the sides are kind of rustling because the breeze and that, and I'm like, I wonder why they call this Bear Lake. So there's nothing but a little thing of canvas between you and the outside, but that was a great time.
Here, I found Oh, go ahead. Here, I found a picture from Snake River that I'm going to share.
Oh, okay.
Say what you're going to say.
No, the thing I remember the most is just how much nothing there was. We're driving west out of Cheyenne, and speed limit's 80, so we set the cruise on 80. And I swear for an hour, I didn't see a tree, a building, nothing. Nothing. And, I'm from Northeast Ohio, and you come up to a freeway exit, and, here there's a McDonald's, there's a this, there's a that. There's nothing at the end. And at times the road would only go one way, like off into infinity. Still no building, still no nothing. And that was surprising. No trees, no nothing. Like 20, 25 miles up to the right, there would be mountains. Same thing off to the left. And that stuck with me. But the open space,
So here's Snake River. This is not, we were a little bit further up, but I couldn't find the picture I was really looking for, which was you and I together. But this was Snake River's here, and then here's the bridge over it. And this picture does not give a good sense of scale. It's a long way down. It's a real long way down. And then one of the last things we did, and you and I didn't do, but we did get to go on the boat, is the kayaking.
Oh, that's right.
So again, these are the pictures I submitted to Motor One. So it doesn't have like the pictures of you and I with the dog, but I will show this one because I always thought these people were kind of crazy, but maybe I just have too much of a fear of nature. So this is during the kayaking, and I'm going to zoom in here, and those are seals. And you can see...
Oh, those seals are sea lions.
Oh, you might be right that those are sea lions. I think regardless...
They're huge.
Oh, they're huge. And you can see these people are an oar's length away from 2, 4, 5, from 9 of them.
And they're squawking.
They're barking and squawking. And I never felt like I wanted to get that close to a bunch of sea lions.
I didn't either,
but people did, and they didn't do anything. So maybe they're nicer creatures than I thought.
Yeah, but they were big, and I'd never seen them
big.
Before. Yep.
Yeah. And this, like I said, this is an Oregon city, which I always assumed sea lions were in the sea, but this is just a river that empties out into the Pacific, and apparently they come inland. So we're like 140, 150 miles from the Pacific Ocean there. So those are going to be freshwater. But you and I went on the boat, which is why we were able to get these fantastic photos. But that was a very good trip.
Very good. And like GM, they treated us like kings. Like at night, they, the best food, all the alcohol you could drink. And they did it first class.
Yeah, that was a good one. So we're at an hour. Let's do one more story.
Okay.
So I think we got to finish with the Nürburgring.
Sure.
Granted, we've been there twice, or I guess let's finish out with the Nürburgring. How about that?
Okay. So 2004, you had graduated high school.
Correct.
And you'd had a background in German. You took German all through high school.
Well, wait. So are we doing that time or the second time when we got to go on the ride? Because remember, you guys came and visited me in Austria, and that's when we did the ride, didn't we?
We got the ride the first time. Second time we just watched, and there was the crash. And
okay, maybe it's
the
weirdest thing about remembering stuff like that. I remember it being the second time, but maybe you're right.
It was the first.
Maybe it was.
I said, I'm not going to go around with just anybody. If somebody
both said that, yep.
Because I was a little bit concerned, and
for valid reason.
So we park at the parking lot, and we're hanging out up by the toll gate where you go out on the track where we can see, cars going on and coming off.
Right. And it's worth mentioning there's a little cafe there. You can go, you can get your Coca Light or a little bite to eat or whatever. Like, it's not just a parking lot. There's stuff to do there.
And typical of Germany, they sell beer there.
They do.
Just like everywhere in Germany. But so anyhow, we're hanging out just wanting to see cool cars. And this guy comes up and he goes, where are you guys from? And he was American. Thought he said he sold cars in Switzerland, but anyhow, he had 2 cars there, and he could probably tell we were American because I had the baseball hat, short and t-shirt, So yeah, he knew we were American, and he goes, a little bit of talking. He goes, well, since you're here, you want to go for a ride? And I completely forgot. I didn't forget, but I forgot all about, my rules. And I thought, well, I got a chance to go around here. I'm going to take it. So we get into this Renault Clio. I think it was a Williams edition.
I believe you're right. Yep. I got in the back. You were in the passenger seat.
Yeah, you got in the back. And we go out, and I thought we were going to get a lap. We got a hot lap.
Oh, yeah.
We got a hot lap. This guy was going for it. And I remember as we're pulling out, so we're in what I'd call a hot hatch. And
totally. And not even, keep in mind, this was a hot hatch from the late 90s, and we're there in 04. So this was not the latest and greatest.
Oh, no.
Even by the,
But so anyhow, as we're pulling out, I noticed a row of hot hatches off to the right. They paid their money and they pulled over. And do you know what they were doing?
I don't remember this part. No.
They're waiting on guys to come out in big Porsches, Ferraris, and Lamborghinis so they can embarrass them. They're the locals in their hot hatches, and it's amazing. But a good driver in a GTI can smoke a Ferrari at that track because it's 14 miles around, and these guys know it like the back of their hand. And
right. It's so just to interrupt, I kind of almost think of it. So I don't know if you remember this, but when Clarkson was there with Sabina Schmitz and they were driving that, I think it was a Ford Transit or something like that. Someone compared the Nürburgring to a game of golf that you go around once and then you keep going around every time to get better and better and better. And it's like that. There are these locals, these guys who live in the area, and they show up whenever they can. Like it's just something to do. And they might not, again, have a Renault Sport Clio Williams, which, is fairly modest, but they've done hundreds, thousands, who knows how many laps, and they know this thing by the back of their hand. So that was my interruption. Continue.
So as we're pulling out, well, first of all, as we're pulling out, there's a 911 Turbo behind us. And I mention it, and the guy goes, yeah, we'll probably see him again. We never did.
No.
So we're going around, and, I'm bracing myself, and the tires are howling. And I'm like,
I'm in the back cackling. I have never laughed like that before or since. I am laughing as hard as I've ever laughed in my entire life at this entire experience, because I've never been anything like it. It's just so I know you used to show people, what was it? A Radical. There was a lap that a Radical did around the ring, and you used to show people that video and say, this is what it felt like. We didn't go that fast. You're not saying that, but being in the car, this is what it felt like.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what it was.
Because if for people who aren't familiar, for most of the track, there's about 3 feet of the track, about 3 feet of grass, a guardrail, and a forest. So you're almost like in a tunnel. And 100 miles an hour on the freeway doesn't feel very fast, but 100 miles an hour when you're kind of, trees on clicking by, it gets a different perspective. So anyhow, this guy's going around just hammering it. And I remember one time we're coming into this one corner and he goes just deadpan. A lot of people die here.
He did.
I'm like, wow. So we're going on and it's the most fun and the most terrifying thing I've ever done, both at the same time. And do you remember when the guy in the sport bike went by about a foot off our bumper?
I do not remember that.
Oh yeah. So we're coming into a curve and I hear that howling and the sport bike goes by, cuts right across our bow. The guy's already committed to the corner. So I can feel the car start to rotate a little bit. The tires have been howling the whole time. And I thought, oh boy, this could be it. And the guy, he caught it. And, we went on around, but man, that was fun. So when we got back, he said, do you want to go again? And I regret it to this day. I said, no. My knees were knocking. Mom said I was white as a ghost. And I remember you laughing in the back. It's like, what's the matter?
I was laughing the whole time.
Yeah.
It was there. I never felt anything like that before.
Yeah. I hadn't either. And so I guess we had different reactions to it. So yeah, I regret not going again, but I do remember making my way to the cafe because I needed a drink. Yeah. So, yeah, that was the most fun I've ever had, with cars. And seems like pretty much most of the times you've been with me.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah.
So, full disclosure, I was looking through pictures and you were right. It was the 04 trip. It wasn't the 06 trip. Sadly, so the camera from the 04 trip is not quite as good. And I didn't take nearly as many pictures as I should. But here, I will throw up this one from the 06 trip. And this is where we stayed, or this is where we stayed the previous time, because this place is fantastic. And I guess I'm giving the guy a free plug, although it was a fantastic hotel. So who the hell cares? So this is, this is the hotel under Nordschleife. Fantastic hotel. Yeah. Love that place.
Remember, we could sit up on that balcony.
Right on the left-hand side here in this image. Yeah.
Yeah. We could sit on that balcony upstairs there and perfect view of the track.
Yeah. In fact, I have an image of us sitting there. If you give me a second, I'll find it here. Yep, here we are. Share. Here we go. So yeah.
Yeah, that's
that balcony you just saw for anyone watching on the left-hand side. And I don't. It would take me too long to find a good picture, but you have to understand you are looking right at the track from there.
Yeah, they're coming right at.
It's not, and it's you can hear them, you can see them. It's just right there.
And I don't know if you remember, but about as far as you could throw a baseball off that balcony the other way is where Niki Lauda had his crash.
Absolutely,
just past there. Yeah.
So in fact, here, let me actually, this one does show it really well. So let me share this one now. And this is looking the other way. And there's a little bar that's right there that you will see is full of bikes. And then, so is that sharing? That is sharing. Perfect. So you can see there's a little bar right here that is just full of cars and bikes. And then here's the Nürburgring right here.
Yeah, and
so you can, if anyone is game, there's the bridge, and if you kept going up to the right-hand side of this image, you go up the hill, and that is where Niki Lauda had his accident. So it's just, but you can see this is from that same balcony. This is where we're sitting, and it's just, it's kind of like automotive heaven or like automotive Mecca almost. That like you make a pilgrimage there.
Absolutely, yeah. Everyone should go once, at least once.
Totally.
So yeah.
So
just real quick on the Germany thing. Driving on the Autobahn was a hoot. I remember I had that little Renault 1.65 speed. Going into Munich, I had that thing strangled. It was 6,000. It was on the red line in top gear. And I was like 115 miles an hour. So in the fast lane at 115, you're looking back as much as you're looking forward, because there can be a speck, and the next thing you know, you got lights flashing and they're on your bumper, because, 115 is, there's people going 140, 150 in the fast lane.
Those are 100 kilometer or no miles. Sorry. Yeah.
So
there are
115 miles an hour. I think it was 180 some kilometers. But I do remember you look up, you look in the mirror, you look up, look in the mirror, and that was crazy.
And the second time, and I'm trying to find a picture of it, I'm scrolling through as I talk to you. The second time we went, we had a VW Passat diesel wagon. That was a pretty cool car. Like, not like cool, but in terms of like getting around on a trip, that was a pretty fantastic car.
I love the torque. I kept saying, boy, what a sweet motor.
Yeah, that was a good one. I'm trying to find a picture of it as I go through here, because I know. Oh, I do. Do I have a picture? No. Well, here, we'll share this one at least. If anyone has, as you're listening to this, and is assuming you're not driving, if you have a beverage handy, this one goes out to Sabina Schmitz. This is the Pistenklause, which is her family's restaurant. And that is right in the Nürburgring. And we visited there and had food there. And it's, I mean, it's open to anybody. Anyone can go there. But I remember, so when we were there, it was it a week before the 24 hours of the Nürburgring?
It was the next weekend. Yes.
Yeah, it was the next weekend. And so there were campers lining the road. Like literally the entire road was campers. Because they all wanted, as soon as you were able to take their spot, to be in the right spot to be at the 24 hours of the ring. I remember that. And I also remember Mom driving the Passat out of there and stalling it a bunch, and an old man laughing at her. Do you remember that?
Yeah. And you remember people were going around with like marking, like ribbon, and they were marking off their spots for the next weekend, and the beer trucks and that were already in place.
Yep.
And I can remember we were at that place they call the Promenade. Yep. And Sabine Schmidt was giving rides. And
this was when she was ring taxi driver. Yeah.
She was in the ring taxi. She's sideways coming out of these corners. The tires are howling. The V10's howling. And she's got this smile on her face. Yeah, totally. I'll always remember that.
And I don't know, maybe this is a false memory, but when people would do something really spectacular going through that area, the people who were there would cheer. Do you remember that? Or not just say cheer, but you would get like kind of a golf clap, like, good job.
Yeah, especially if you got like a big nasty slide and you're on the verge of losing it and saved it, and everybody would.
Yep. You got a little something. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we could talk more car stories. You and I have plenty more, but that's an hour and 15 minutes. So I guess we got to call it for now.
Okay.
But let's do this again sometime. I think this was fun. I hope people enjoyed it. Commenters, as always, please let us know, if you like this episode. I had a hell of a lot of fun. So
I did too.
If you didn't, that's fine. Oh, and real quick, we are down to 6 subscribers that we need to achieve Chris Smith's housewarming gift of 400 subscribers to the show. So we would really love to do that. We're at 394, 6 more people. So again, and I've said this the last 2 weeks, if you like the show and you listen every week and you haven't subscribed, please subscribe on YouTube. If you know someone who you think would like the show, subscribe for them. And if they subscribe after Chris Smith moves to his new house, we'll ignore that. But let's try to give him 400 for his new house. That's 6 people. I'm not asking for a lot here. So, yeah. Dad, I know you don't have anything you need to plug necessarily, but is there anything you want to tell the audience, tell people, tell me, tell whomever before we sign off?
No, I think I've had an hour to talk about myself. So, yeah, I think I got it all in.
Okie doke. All right. Well, then for everyone out there, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. We appreciate all of our listeners, all of our commenters. I know we got some. Eric and Ted Allen Green, I got both of your emails. Didn't want to do any comments this week because wanted to spend some time with my dad. So appreciate that. But we'll hit him next week. We'll be talking about that stuff. And Chris Smith will be back, and he'll tell us about his adventure of driving from South Dakota to Michigan and moving in. And he sent me a few pictures already. So we'll be talking about that. So good night, everybody. Goodbye, everybody. We thank you. And that's it.